If you're having some arch difficulties, there's every chance that this tibialis posterior muscle is also dysfunctional at the same time. So g'day and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I want to show you how you can use a massage ball, or in this case a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball, to release one of the really hidden tight muscles that tend to affect a lot of arch dysfunction. So if you're someone who has bunions, if you have plantar fasciitis, if you have Achilles pain or Achilles tendonitis, if you have navicular issues, if you have some knee pain potentially, if you have tight calves, impinged ankles, doesn't matter what's going wrong with your foot and ankle, if you're having some arch difficulties, there's every chance that this tibialis posterior muscle is also dysfunctional at the same time. So it pays to have a very simple, basic and effective technique to mobilize that tissue, feed some slack back into the area, particularly the arch and the ankle region, to hopefully help your symptoms. And what I find is really useful for this is if you can get into a cross-legged position. Obviously this isn't for everyone. You can do this in other positions. You can do it, for example, literally just having your leg out to the side here. You can have it out straight a little bit more depending on what works for you. You can also obviously have someone do this too if you have a friend that you trust or a co-worker or something like that, that you don't mind them digging the ball in on your behalf. That also works as well. What we want to get you to do is we want to locate that tib post muscle, and that if you find your shin bone at the front, if we come back from that a little bit, this is essentially where the tib post musculature, the meaty part of the muscle, tends to sit. And then as it goes down the inner leg, it comes on the inside of that ankle bone, turns into a tendon, and then attaches underneath the foot around where the arch tends to be. So it's very closely aligned to poor arch dysfunction, or poor arch function, sorry, because every time that arch collapses, then you can consistently create excess tension through that area, which again can set it up for pain and dysfunction in its own right, but can also contribute to the pain and dysfunction that you might be having around that arch or around that arch dysfunction. Once we've found and located a tight spot, it's not too hard. We've got probably 3 different options that you can try to see which one gives you the best bang for your buck. Starting probably 2/3 of the way up that leg, I like to sort of start at the shin and then roll down on top of that, put a little bit of pressure through there, and you should automatically find that there's a couple of really tender spots there that you may never have realized. Now, the first thing that you can do is you can genuinely just keep the ball here. Just let the ball press in for a little bit, take a deep breath in, tense the muscle underneath, point your toes, really tense your calf up, get the muscle underneath to tense with that PNF or contract relax model, so that when you relax, that ball will sink in further because the soft tissue underneath has relaxed underneath that. Then what we can get you to do is then move it down a little bit lower, try and find the next spot that's a little bit tight, a little bit tender, squeeze everything up again, tense it up, then relax. The second thing that you can do obviously is the stereotypical rolling, where you just put some pressure through there and roll up and down that. This isn't necessarily my favorite way to do this. I don't feel like it gives us the bang for our buck that we're looking for in this video. But again, going up and down the length of that tissue might work for you depending on how tender it is. But also going across ways, doing some cross frictions through that area might be another way that you can really try and sort of get some of that tissue to prompt that tissue to release a little bit faster. But again, I don't find that as helpful or as useful as the contract relax, because it may actually be a lot more tender for you, which we don't necessarily want if we can avoid that. Now, once you've had a look around with those areas, the third way that I like to try and get this tissue to free up is, again, once you've found a really tight and tender spot, put enough pressure through there so you still feel very safe and comfortable. We can then get you to maneuver your ankle around in different directions. You can bend your foot backwards and forwards. You can turn the sole of your foot inwards, the sole of your foot outwards. Try and get that tissue to shear free underneath the ball. That we can feed a little bit more slack into that area, and that area starts to move a little bit better. And then what you should hopefully find is when you move those ankles around again, you should automatically feel like the side that you just did is automatically looser. And then when you walk around, you might find that the arch dysfunction that you have, or any tenderness associated with an arch that may want to collapse, feels a little bit nicer. Now, if sitting up isn't comfortable for you, what you can actually do as well on top of this is we can get you lying down on your belly, placing the ball on the ground, and then putting the ball in this position here. So we're still getting the same access to that tissue, but it's a little bit of a different stimulus to what you would necessarily find if you're sitting up while you're doing this. So again, you can do the same things. You can roll up and down there if you want to. Again, it's my least favorite of the 3 options. The next thing you can do, obviously, is just spend some time there, tense the muscles up underneath the ball, push your foot into the ground a little bit, tense everything up. Then when you relax, you should feel like the ball sinks in a little bit looser. And then the third way that you can do this, again, is finding a spot that feels a little bit tight, a little bit restricted, keeping some pressure there, and then really trying to bend and flex that foot and try and get that tissue to shear free. It's a really, really fantastic way to do this. Again, you can always put more pressure through it if you feel like it's not too bad in here and you can tolerate more. But I'd highly recommend you give that a go. Let me know in the comments down below how you found that worked and whether you feel like it had a really pleasant effect on some of your underlying symptoms. So again, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.